Hi, everyone. We are live from Tampa, Florida. You are listening to another episode of the Slimming Surgeon podcast. I'm obviously your host, Dr. Kandace Kichler. Today, I have my bestie, Dr. Lucy De La Cruz. She is Georgetown's finest breast surgeon. So she is a breast cancer specialist. She is one of my best friends. I've known her since residency. We calculated that last night, like 13 years. She is from all over the world, originally from Cuba, but she has also lived in Africa, Spain, like a lot of places. She's well traveled, very cultured, unlike myself. And she is a woman of all things. So today I'm just going to chat with Lucy. Hi, Lucy.
Hi, Candace. I can't believe we've talked about this for so long, and we're doing it from a hotel room.
Yes.
So it's interesting. So you could see here, we're looking at a beautiful weather in Tampa finally after we went to work out and we got rained on. And our hair's kind of ruined a little bit. So
yeah, if you're watching this on video, half of my hair is curled, half is not, but that's fine. It's not important. We've got a time crunch because her kids are on the way. Okay, so let's just get into the meat of it. I want to talk a little bit about like mentorship, because you have been not just a surgical mentor for me, but like a life mentor. Like, what do you think makes a good mentor?
Oof, that's a tough question. I think not everybody, everybody needs a mentor specific to them. It's almost like not one size fits all. I think in all phases of my life, I've had mentors that are very different. I remember when I was a medical student who wanted to go into residency as a foreign medical graduate, my mentors didn't necessarily come from surgery, and I wanted to be a surgeon, but they were the right people at that time to guide me to what the process was like and give me insight and also motivate me and to tell me, like, listen, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and you feel at some point that you're going insane. And they were there to root me on and saying, like, Lucy, no, keep on fighting, keep on working hard. Eventually it'll pay off. And then as I was a resident, I've had great mentors, Dr. Livingstone, who gave me the opportunity of becoming a surgeon. And his styling of mentorship was very much at high altitude mentorship. He would give you one word and you would have to run with it. Mm-hmm. And there was one mentor that was more hand-holding, Dr. Lesnikowski. She was there with me in the OR. She was guiding me. And then I had another mentor, Dr. Mustafavi, who wasn't a breast surgeon, who was a vascular surgeon. She gave me a little bit of insight about what life looked like after residency, and what to really look for, and not to look at the short term, but look at the big picture, the long term decisions that you make as a resident, as a medical student. You're really making a decision for the next, I don't know.
Well, every decision has so many downward steps, or like can change your trajectory dramatically. Like, me choosing to go to Florida to pursue my education, wouldn't have met my husband, wouldn't have had my babies, wouldn't have met Lucy. So every single decision you make has some type of downward effect. And I think when you go into big decisions, it's important to maybe run it by a good mentor, like someone who has your best interests at heart, who maybe can see beyond this moment to moment decision making that you're doing and kind of look at your big picture with you.
Yeah, because you're in the mud. I call it being in the mud.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're in the mud, everything's blurry. You don't get to see the what's outside of the mud, what's beyond the mud. And so I still do that actually. When I'm in that place where I'm muddy, I call it the muddy moments of life. Mm-hmm. I kind of step away and say, Lucy, you are in the mud. And I acknowledge that I'm in the mud. And who can actually tell me that I'm in the mud? I used to have my dad before he died, and now he passed away. So now I have to acknowledge myself that I'm in the mud. Mm-hmm. Before, he was really good at pointing, Lucy, you're in the mud. You're not making the right decision because you're thinking inside in the box, and think about the long-term effect of that. Think about the long-term plan. Think about the big picture. And along the way, I've had great mentors, but I said, the mentorship, and I always tell medical students and residents come up to me and they're like, how do we find a good mentor? And I think sometimes you look for them, sometimes they fall in your lap, but it's really a nurturing relationship that's mostly initially one way. which means the mentee has to put a lot of energy, has to devote a lot of enthusiasm into the relationship. And once you earn that trust, that relationship, then the mentor actually tends to be the one that gives back more.
Yeah, I feel that a lot because I am approached frequently by people, not necessarily in medicine, but just somewhere in a younger age bracket that I'm in, and they have questions and they want this and they want that and they want a shadow and da da da. And that's all great. And I'm happy to do it. But there's a line. There's a lot of people wanting to do that. And I have kids, I have a husband, I have a job, I have to do my social media. Like, I don't like to devote myself to someone unless I know that they really want it and are really into the relationship, because it's frustrating when you invest in someone and then they're gone the next day.
I compare it to dating. I always ask them, how would you feel if you go on a date with someone and then they ghost you?
Yeah.
That's ghosting. Pretty much, it's like ghosting your mentor.
We're not into ghosting.
And also
ghosting is so 2023. Revert back to my last episode or the couple episodes back where I talk about the ins and outs of 2024. Ghosting is number 6 on the list of outs. It's out.
It's out. And it is ghosting, and mentorship is out.
Yeah.
Also, not being present. I mentor people and then they're not there. They just want like the quick notes. What is it? The cliff notes. And cliff notes are so out, by the way. Also, I haven't seen a cliff note.
I don't think it exists. I don't think because of the internet. When the internet came about, cliff notes was like, sorry, Cliff.
So it's almost like there are no cliff notes for success. There are no cliff notes for.
Oh, this is good. Yeah,
there are no cliff notes for the struggle. To avoid. I mean, I find it such a beautiful thing. I actually. One of the things that sometimes when I have imposter syndrome, which all of us have,
yes.
Although some people say that it's not a syndrome, it's just a thought that happens, because it's a syndrome is a disease, and we don't have a disease, we just have a thought.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that I write down all the places that I have failed and how I've come out of those places.
Yes.
And every time I fail now, I almost find it as an opportunity to get better. And I kind of feel that maybe not everybody has this, because I've been through so much in my life, but now when there's something that goes wrong, that it's not something that I've planned, I almost see it as an opportunity for something better to come along. And that makes me also, face failure with grace, not be angry with it or with myself. I'm not going to say it's easier, it makes it easier, but it makes you go through the process in a smoother way.
100%. I have done so much with my life, considering where I started. The same. And there's obviously been struggles. There's been people who've doubted me, who've thought I couldn't do what I'm doing. Like this podcast. When I first announced that I was doing this to like some close friends, I had someone say, well, what are you going to talk about? As if
you don't have nothing.
As if I didn't have enough to talk about. And I was just like, here is another opportunity to prove someone wrong. Like, I get a little bit of pleasure out of that, because it's like, okay, you say I can do it, but I will do it, and I will do it better than you even imagined. So that I'm very much driven by progress, by overcoming obstacles, getting around these, roadblocks, because it's just so much sweeter on the other end. And I think it gives a lot of people hope, because we're all going to go through shit 100%. Like, just when you think life is going great and going smooth, you will be hit with something. And it's how you handle it with grace, with compassion, because there's going to be people that cause you these problems. And it's, with perseverance and resilience.
By the way, I always say grace is not just outwards, it's an inward process too. And being graceful with yourself, to allow yourself to feel the moment, feel the emotion, and kind of say, okay, I'm going to dust off and see how this happens. And not why me, but why did it happen? What was the purpose of this?
Yeah.
And I think if you turn around and not say, oh, why me, kind of making it into a victim role, but rather an opportunity for growth, it becomes a beautiful process of development. and self-discovery also. I will tell you, the biggest things that I've learned in my life have not been from my gains, have been from my losses.
Yeah.
And so, again, this takes maturity, this takes time, but it's interesting because when Kandace didn't really say how we met. She was interviewing. Let's tell the story.
You tell it.
So I was a third-year resident when Kandace comes for an interview at our program. And
mind you, I had brown hair.
Yes, she had brown hair.
I know you can't imagine it because this is what I was born with. This is what is innate to my being. But yeah, at the moment I had brown hair. Okay, keep going.
So she comes in and we are like we're walking from the main hospital to the breast cancer center, and I'm giving a tour. And I said, oh, there's this attending called LV. And she looks at me, she's like, LV? Somebody says that. Somebody mentioned LV. Yeah. And she's like, oh my God, like LV. And I go, yeah, like Louis Vuitton. And her and I were the only people who got that joke.
Nobody got it. It was like crickets in the room. People were like, what? This girl, what?
And at that moment I was like, she needs to come here. Because there was another woman. I mean, there was another female surgery resident. But,
who
was Benita?
Oh, Benita. Yeah.
And then, but I was like the loud one. I was like, Benita was more like conservative.
You had the energy.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I need somebody to so that we can combo this. And that way, and so when she came, I remember, we were like going through the rink and they were like, oh, Kandace is coming. Oh my God, the LV girl. And we became instantaneously best friends. And I adopted her as my little sister.
Yes, I'm Cuban. I'm part Cuban.
She's part Cuban now. And, I will tell you what she talks about. We both struggled through that because we were the girly girls of surgery. And we would she would wear makeup. I mean, she looked like this at 4 a.m. I did not look like that. But she really was my spirit animal. Kind of like, I wish I could wake up at 4 a.m. and put makeup on and look fabulous all the time. Although now I tried my best to do that because I don't wake up at 4 a.m. and I'm not a resident. But I will tell you, the ability to have somebody there that understands how you are, that you're feminine, that you're strong, that you can be vulnerable, but you can be sweet, and like kind of be a sour patch. We were talking about. We could be strong, but we can be sweet. We can be funny, but we can be serious. That oxymoron or paradox in surgery was really, really hard when we were resident.
Hard to digest for some people.
Yeah, and definitely. It still is, by the way.
Well, I think our personalities can be hard to digest in literally every aspect of our life. Like from our spouses, our kids, like the people we interact with on a day-to-day basis, because we just do a lot, and like we want to relax, but then we're serious. We want to like be glam, but then we need to work out, like it's a whole situation, but we manage it because you have to manage it. Like, I mean, what else are you going to do? Like suck? Not me. Not me.
Well, I'm going to tell you. So I talk about this sometimes with students because they were like, Dr. Delacruz, how do you work out? How do you have children? How do you like publish? How do you operate? How do you travel for work? How do you travel for personal reasons? How do you now that I'm single, how do you date?
Yeah.
How do you balance all of this? And I think, again, goes back to grace and understanding. Before, I wanted to do everything at the same time. I wanted to be really good at everything at all times. Let me tell you, when you're 25, which I'm not that far away because I tell my kids I'm 26, I mean, I was like, I could do this.
It's easier then. Yeah.
But as you get older, you realize that to do it well, to be thoughtful with yourself, to give yourself a break, to not be so harsh on yourself sometimes. You have to understand that sometimes you will be 100% woman and you'll be 20, maybe you'll be 70% woman, you'll be, 30% surgeon that day.
Oh, yeah.
And then one day you'll be 100% mom, and then everything else is on the back burner. And so you have to understand that you could have it all, but not every day of the week.
Right.
And just understand that it's almost like time management with having it all. And once I understood that, I put a lot of the guilt that I carried when I was a resident, missing my son's first time he said mama, and the time being away from their birthdays.
Right.
Or, missing my best friend's weddings.
Yeah.
And I missed your wedding. And
Yeah.
I missed so many people, my other friends' weddings and baptisms and funerals and significant other things in other people's life that I love.
Mhm.
And, I was so harsh. I wanted to have it all at the same time. I wanted to be able to be everywhere.
Right.
And once you realize you can't be everywhere, then you learn how to say no to some things that maybe are not that valuable to you.
Yes.
And then it becomes easier to have it all.
I saw something the other day where someone posted, I am a time snob. You have to really earn my time. Like it has to be the right person, the right setting for you to get on my calendar. And I was like, wow, maybe that's something I need to start embracing, because I'm not so, I don't really, everybody gets an opportunity kind of thing. Like I say yes way more than I say no, but I'm learning that I get very overwhelmed when I say yes as often as I do. And then it's like, I'm burnout, I'm frustrated. That negative energy goes into my home life. And that's like the last place I should be feeling stress is at home. So learning to be a time snob, I think, and say no when necessary, I think is really important. Like I do a lot of listen to a lot of self-help, like self-development, kind of like personal empowerment and growth podcasts and lectures and things like that. And it's also about, what are your goals? Okay. If your goal is X, why are you going to do W, V, J, and K? Like let's focus on X and only do things that are going to align in the direction of X. I think that's something that I'm learning as well right now.
Actually, I will tell you that when my father passed away, I realized that we are not owners of our time, and time is fragile. And so I think that was a moment in time, no pun intended, that I started to see life as a different thing. And I realized there's a book called 4,000 Fridays or something like that, or 4,000 Weeks. And if you start measuring your life as this is it, we have 4,000 weeks to live.
Yeah. That's not a lot of weeks.
That's not a lot of weeks.
Take the trip, go to St. Bart.
Buy the purse.
Buy the purse. Buy the car. Buy the shoes. No. This is not a finance podcast.
No. And I'm not giving financial advice, but if you do, you should buy The Psychology of Money.
Oh,
that's a great book.
I listened to his podcast.
That's a great book. But anyway, so
I didn't listen to it that long. I was like, too difficult. Click.
But I read the book, and it's actually not a bad book. But yeah, 4,000 weeks. And I've lived half of that. So when you start to realize, and by the way, when I realized this was because I thought my dad had 20 more years to live. And when he passed away, I felt like something was stolen from me. And I started to realize that I didn't want to give my time away anymore to things that did not align with my biggest mission in life, which is to live my life to the fullest.
Right.
So somebody asked me one day, what are your hobbies? And I go, I have a lot of hobbies, but you know what my main hobbies are? Collecting memories.
That's
because
good.
I'm
say that for your interviews.
collecting memories. Because what do we take when we go? What did my dad take when he went? He took his shirt.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take my teeth.
Right.
If you got boobs, I don't, but Kandace, you'll take your boobs.
Yeah.
And you'll take your memories. And that is the only thing we take. And so I devote my time to creating the most amazing memories with my children, the most amazing memories with the people that I love. I want to dedicate that to my career so that when I leave this earth, those 2,000 weeks that I have left were invested in the most thoughtful, passionate, fulfilling way that I can. And I won't tell you that I do this every week,
of course,
but I try to do it in the majority of the time when I have a time for myself, even when I'm at work.
Yeah.
I think about it. I'm like, what week am I touching this person in their life? I'm probably touching in the 1,500th week of their life. And they have 35 or 25 more hundred. I mean, that obviously tells you I'm bad at math.
Yeah.
But 25 more hundred weeks. How am I going to change those 2,500 weeks in their life? Today, after 15 minutes of having a talk about their cancer, about their outcome, their surgery, their prognosis. These are all things that I love. And again, it was because of a moment of loss, of great loss in my life, that I was able to have this enlightenment.
Yes.
That changed the way that I live my life now on. And I won't tell you, I fall back into those old habits sometimes where I do what Kandace just said, where
Right.
I'm not a time snob and I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh my God, why did I say so much yes? And so what I do is every month I like check and say, like, what do I have next?
Mhm.
If I have too much, I say, remind myself to say no.
You know what I think is also really important? When you find yourself in a position or a place, a relationship, a job, whatever it may be, where you're unhappy, get out. Get out. The sooner you get out, the sooner you make that huge decision to change, the happier you will be. It is going to seem impossible. It is going to seem like something you cannot accomplish. And how is it going to work? And where, how am I going to make my rent? And whatever it may be, like I've literally had those moments. And it just gets better. Like it just gets better. If you have good intentions and you are really getting away from people who are negative in your life or pulling you down,
the universe will provide.
Situations that are exactly, God and the universe will provide. He will find a way. You will be fine. You will be better off. So I say that to encourage a lot of people because I know so many people and even like close friends and family who are in places that they verbally say they don't want to be in, but then take no action. Just start taking the action. Even if it's just like a little baby step at first, just do it. Do what you need to do to make yourself happy.
Actually, that's a great thing to recommend because most of the time people get like frozen.
Mm-hmm.
It's
decision paralysis or something like that.
Yes.
Analysis
paralysis. So they are so in like kind of tangled in the web of, unhappiness, indecision, upset, anger, sadness, depression, that they are paralyzed and they don't make decisions. They don't. And then they let that inner voice say, you're not good enough. How do I dare you think that you can make it? And then society sometimes does that.
Yes.
Institutions who don't want to lose you. Make you feel like you depend on them 100% of the time. And
how could you ever survive without us?
Yeah, right.
We are the amazingly.
Amazingly. So one of the things that I always say is like when you are in that place, again, you're in the mud, right? Try to say, okay, I'm not going to leave this job today because I have a family. I have, financial responsibilities. I don't know where I'm going to go, but start looking, start calling your mentors,
plant those
start
seeds.
Telling your friends, hey, you know what? Do you guys know of anybody? And it's like the 6 degrees of separation, but to get them, it's like the telephone game, you tell someone who will tell someone who will speak to someone. And that's someone, I'm telling you, so many times I've been in that place where I'm unhappy. I don't want to be there. And I tell someone I call it planting the seed.
Yeah.
And in the Bible, it talks about the harvesting season and the planting season. For me, every 7 years, I have a harvest season. So I'm kind of like in the middle right now. So I know right now what I'm supposed to do is plant seeds. I will not see the results of it. And I'm okay with it because I've been through already three or 4 or 5 seed, planting seasons. But the harvest is such a beautiful time where you get to enjoy and you get to really like if your heart is open and your eyes are open, you really truly get to enjoy the blessings. And so you may be right now in a place where you're not happy, where you're not satisfied with whatever you are in your relationship or in your work or with your physique or whatever it is. But get up and do one small thing a day, 1% a day. Yeah. If you do 1% towards your goal, eventually it adds up. It's kind of like the psychology of money that I was talking to you about. It talks about how Warren Buffett became a billionaire and he started saving at 10. He didn't save millions of dollars when he was 10. He saved $1, $5, $10. And again, these little changes are what led to the big change. And then now he's harvesting, right? From that, habit, from that planting. And so if you are in that place, I mean, I'm not speaking here from a place of like, I'm not there. I plant every day. I plant every day with my children, which I'm hoping one day I harvest incredible men who are thoughtful, who are kind, who are amazing humans, who are in their own right, incredible, and who create their lives that they want to, and that I've given them that opportunity to do so. But for myself, I'm also planting for my future. How am I going to age? How am I going to be when I get old? Who's going to take care of me? Because I want somebody to take care of me.
Right.
I mean, we're so like go-getters that we feel like we don't need anybody to take care of us. You know what? I actually want somebody to take care of me, not financially, but if they do, great. But I just want somebody to like be there for me.
Yeah.
You know, like if tomorrow I need, I don't know, I break my leg, God forbid, like somebody to carry my luggage when we travel.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's something that we forget to do when we're young and strong. And we're these like furious women who are like, we don't need anybody to take care of us. You know what? Everybody needs somebody to take care of them.
Yes.
Whether you're a man, you're a woman, you're a child, you're an old person, you're a unicorn, whether you're a modern day mermaid, which is what I am, whatever you are, you need somebody to take care of you.
100%.
And I think most of the time when we're young, we don't acknowledge that. And we don't plant the seed to create relationships that will eventually be those people that are in our lives to take care of each other. I will take care of you and you will take care of me, whether it's emotionally, physically, in your career, in your personal life, when you're down, when you're up, you know. And so those are things that are really valuable and important about, you know, kind of going through the process and thinking of your life as weeks.
And think of every relationship that you do have as important, and being a nice person. Biggest pro tip ever. Like, you can be cold, you can be shut off, you can be a mean girl. It's going to get you nowhere.
Yeah.
Nowhere. So that's also on my list. The top 5.
Yeah.
Nice queen energy.
So you know what? I feel I'm not that I'm going to tell you that I've always had nice queen energy, because some days I don't.
We probably both were mean girls. I feel like at some point we were like in the struggle and like, you know.
I don't think we're mean girls though. I think mean girls are people that are like criticizing others. No, I think we were in a corner. And when you feel like you're in a corner, you either fight back or you get killed, or you get like, you know, you get beat up. And I think you and I didn't want to get beat up, and we just had to defend ourselves. And the only way, you know, that you know how to do is defending yourself. And sometimes that comes off as being harsh and being, you know, unfiltered. And I think that that's what made us who we are today. But I think we're not out there like, oh, what is she wearing? Oh my God. Like, that's not necessarily the kind of, you know, relationship that you and I had. It was really like more like, okay, they're trying to be mean to us. How do we defend ourselves? How do we make it through these 5 years of struggle, of being a resident, of being girly girls in this place that nobody really recognizes us, and they think that we're bimbos when we're not. And so the ultimate thing that I also wanted to say is that, you know, in the moments where you least expect it, the people that you have been around and that you've touched their lives will be there for you in some random way. And this has happened to me. I will tell you, in the last 5 years of my life, where I probably have been in the saddest place. I've also had amazing times, but I've also been in the saddest place in my life, in my adult life, actually in my whole life. I've had random people whose life I touched maybe once in like years call me. And I'll tell you, I had this person who I met when I was in college. And him and he was a senior in college and I was a freshman. And like we were part of the same group, and he liked me, and we kind of went on a couple of dates, and then I left to medical school. So, because I went to Dominican Republic right after my first semester in undergrad. And then he moved away because he wasn't American, he was Mexican. So he went back to Mexico, and we like kind of got back together like to hang out like after I graduated from medical school, after I broke up with my first boyfriend. And then out of the blue, when I'm going through my divorce and I'm like in the saddest place, feeling the worst about everything about my life, except my kids and my career, because those are the two things that were my son, Massimo and Marcelo, and my job really kept me sane. But when I was really sad, like heartbroken, where I really couldn't see a light, this person called me one day,
like out of the blue,
after 13 years, and he said, "Hey, Lucy," and I remember looking at my phone, and I was like,
who is this?
Why is he calling me? This is like really weird. And I remember he said, you know, I woke up this morning with you in my heart, and I felt you needed to hear this. And I go, what do you mean? And he goes, Lucy, I just want you to know that you're the type of woman that doesn't deserve breadcrumbs. You deserve the whole bar, the whole loaf of bread.
Wow.
And I remember, if you don't believe in God, you should, because at that moment, the one person that I could have owned, because he knew me when I was a kid, he knew me when I was like after in my college years, and he knew me as like the most authentic person, like Literally when
Yeah.
I was a kid in college, like free, not like, kind of after all the rough patches that I had been through, the pure version of me. And he tells me that. I remember I was at Dirty French in Miami waiting for my friend Stephanie. I was on the phone and she comes in and I'm like in the middle of a bar. And she's like, what the hell happened? Just like, listen, the weirdest thing just happened to me. And I told him, listen, I don't know how and who put that in your heart, but I will tell you, thank you. And you know what he told me? Lucy, even when I broke your heart, when I left Mexico and, and even when like you were always the kindest, most graceful person that I've ever met. And you deserve this. Anyways,
We gotta go.
we gotta go. We ended on the high note.
The highest of highs here with Lucy. Always the queen. We'll have another episode soon, but we literally have to go. I think we're gonna like be shut all the recording. Okay. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry that might have seemed abrupt, but we really have to go. And we love you. Please leave me a 5-star review. Follow Lucy on Instagram at girly, GIRLY_surgeon. Send her a DM. She's literally basically always willing to help everyone. And we'll be back next time.
Love you, girl.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.